All right, time to bring you guys Money Lion MMA coverage of UFC Fight Night Marlon Vera versus Dominick Cruz. This fight is taking place in San Diego, California at the Pechanga Arena on August 13th. With the prelims are actually starting at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, which is 2:30 p.m. Central. But that is the prelims. The main card will start around 5:30 Central Time. The card opens up with the start here being Yazmin Jauregui fighting Iasmin Lucindo. That's a women's strawweight bout. Then we've got Bruno Silva against Gerald Meerschaert, GM3, a middleweight bout. And then we've got the women's flyweight bout of Nina Nunes versus Cynthia Calvillo. The light heavyweight bout of Azamat, Murzakanov, and Devin follows that. And then your co-main event of the evening, a featherweight bout between David Onama and Nate Landwehr. And the main event of the night will be your bantamweight bout between rank 8 Dominick Cruz and rank 5 Marlon Vera. And Jose will be opening us up here with the first fight of the night.
Thanks, Nick. For the first fight of the night, we're going to have a women's strawweight bout between Yazmin Jauregui out of Mexico versus Yazmin Lucindo out of Brazil. This is going to be both their UFC debuts. I'm excited to see what they're going to bring to the table. But to be honest, I don't know what much to really talk about them because there's not much stats right now to pick up of and get a good sense of them. Not as much footage either. But what I can tell you is that Yazmin Jauregui out of Mexico, she has power. She has 6 KOs. 6 out of her 8 wins come via KO. That stands out to me. And not only that, Yazmin Lucindo out of Brazil, she herself has a pretty decent record. Right now, she is 13-4. And the money line right now has Yazmin Lucindo out of Brazil as the betting underdog at plus 186, while Yazmin Jauregui is the betting favorite at minus 245. A lot of people are taking a lot of respect on that knockout power that Yazmin Jauregui has, Nick, but I don't think people should sleep on Yazmin Lucindo as well. I mean, she herself has 8 KOs out of her 13 wins on her record, and she also has submission skills too. She has 2 submission wins on her record as well. So for this matchup, I'm a little surprised Jauregui is that Lucindo is the betting underdog because she has grappling skills too. And I feel like in a striking game, if it falls back to it, the grappler will have a better advantage. Her coming out of Brazil, I'm sure her jiu-jitsu is great. And if the stand-up gets a little tough, I feel like Lucindo may rely on her jiu-jitsu skills to get her a victory win. What are your thoughts on this, Nick?
Yeah, I think the grappling side that you brought up at the end there with Lucindo might be one of the more intriguing aspects of this fight. Because personally, I don't have too much to say otherwise. I think, like you said, both these girls don't have much experience, and it's crazy that the UFC, I mean, Lucindo is 20 and Jauregui is 23 years old. I mean, it's crazy that we're seeing girls with so little experience in MMA getting to be on a main card of a UFC event, even if it is a fight night. So that's just interesting to me. But in the end, personally, I'm leaning towards Jauregui's knockout ability here. I think Lucindo does have that threat on the ground potentially, but in the end, she hasn't been able to use it, at least as of her last few fights in her previous promotions. So I'm going to lean towards Jauregui here. She's gotten some good KO wins lately, even if they aren't against very known fighters. I think that just shows her ability to compete at a higher level than those around her. So give me Jauregui on this fight.
Yeah, Nick, that's a great pick. I mean, I'm with you on this one. It's a really tough one for me. I do like Jauregui a lot, and this is going to be a tough one because, again, I haven't seen much of them both, but I myself am a big fan of grappling. I'm a grappler myself, so I will go with Lucindo out of Brazil. I think if it's going to getting tough on the feet, I'm sure she's going to be looking for a takedown and trying to get a submission win to fall back on. But Jauregui, she kind of ended out like on the feet. I think either one can knock each other out, but to secure a submission win for sure will be Lucindo. I don't know if this fight's actually going to make it to the distance. So for this fight, I'll take Lucindo.
Love it. Coming up next, I'm so pumped. We've got one of my favorite fighters right now in the middleweight division, in the UFC in general, Gerald Meerschaert, GM3, fighting against Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva's coming in at minus 295. GM3 a plus 220 underdog. Jose, I'm so excited for this one. Gerald, just because of his hometown, homeboy. We came from the same town, and I love to see this guy succeed. He did get a couple tough matchups. As we've discussed this guy before on our show, when we had discussed his loss in the first round of Khamzat and stuff, some tough matchups and some tough losses too before that to Eric Anders and Kevin Holland. So, he's one of those guys that can really bring it and sometimes does get beaten by the best of the strikers. But at this point, coming off a loss against Jocko, I think GM3 is going to bring it. I think he knows that he's got to step up his game a little bit on striking, or he's going to have to destroy his opponents on the ground. And I honestly think he might be able to do either of those. Bruno Silva's a guy who's coming off a loss to Alex Pereira, who's he brought it to decision and definitely got outstruck, and the fight wasn't necessarily that close. But, Bruno Silva's a beast, no doubt about it. I just don't think he's fought a guy with as much grappling and submission ability as GM3. So I'm very excited to see how this one plays out.
Yeah, Nick, I couldn't agree any more with you. This is a classic matchup of a stand-up striker versus a strong grappler. These guys, Bruno Silva is in the double digits, almost 20 KO/TKOs on his record, while Gerald Meerschaert has definitely surpassed the 20 benchmark. He's at 26 submissions on his record, 34 wins, 26 of them by submission. I think it's a no-brainer while a lot of people think what he's going to be looking for in this matchup. But that being said, Bruno Silva is legit. This guy had a nice streak going on right before he ran into Alex Pereira. And he was KOing and TKOing people on his way into the UFC. And just that last fight against Alex Pereira, Alex Pereira is going to challenge Israel Adesanya for the title next. That was announced. So the fact that he went to unanimous decision, lost to him, that just shows that he is smart enough to not get knocked out and to play a game. But, he does need to work on some stuff because Gerald Meerschaert, definitely his striking is not near Alex Pereira. So I know we're not going to have to really worry about Bruno Silva having to kind of survive or, really think high striking level IQ. I think his striking IQ right now is already beyond Gerald Meerschaert's. So I think on the feet, he has absolutely nothing to worry about. That being said, though, Gerald Meerschaert too, he should be a little worried of Bruno Silva, though, because Bruno Silva has a 68% takedown defense. Now, Gerald Meerschaert, he's not really the type of guy to force a takedown. He looks more for what's given to him. So that being said, as long as Bruno Silva doesn't fall forward and stays out of Gerald Meerschaert's guard or just not fall to the ground with him, he's in a safe spot. That being said, Gerald Meerschaert, we have seen him against strikers, like you mentioned, Khamzat. That's Khamzat. Okay, I understand. But also after that, before that fight, he got TKO'd in the first round by Ian Hinschiff, Ian Hinish, and that just kind of shows like Gerald Meerschaert, his chin isn't really the best for sure. Someone can clip him on the right spot and put him out. And it makes sense. He's been fighting for such a long time, though, as you're only getting older, your chin can only take so much damage. And I can only imagine as time goes on, the chances of him having his lights go out is only increasing. But that being said, Gerald Meerschaert has proven that he can keep up with high-level strikers. Earlier, I mentioned how Bruno Silva has like 19 KOs slash TKOs on his record. Well, Gerald Meerschaert has a win over Makhmed Muradov, who has 17 KOs slash TKOs on his record. 17 out of 25 of his wins come from KO via TKO. So to me, that doesn't really scare me much of what Gerald Meerschaert's going to deal with, because he's already dealt with a high-level striker with high-level KOs, with a high amount of KOs and TKOs on his record. So Gerald Meerschaert is smart enough to avoid getting in strong, high-paced striking matches against these guys. He's not trying to throw out a high volume back at them. You know, he mostly tries to circle around and stay on his feet and just look for openings and what he can. And again, try to sink in a submission, kind of like Paul Craig, to be honest, but not as bad as Paul Craig, because Paul Craig definitely tries to force him a lot more than Joe Meerschaert. He is a lot more patient and lets the submissions fall into his place, and that played out in his favor when he went against Makhmed Muradov. I mean, he got him in a second round submission rear naked choke. I think he can do the same thing against Bruno Silva as long as he stays composed and really doesn't fall into Bruno Silva's game. I think that Joe Meerschaert can walk away with a sneaky submission in this one.
Without a doubt, Jose, I think Gerald also has a great advantage standing if he is able to use it, with having a 77-inch reach compared to Silva's 74-inch reach. I think he's just naturally a little bit bigger of a guy. So that could really be of his advantage if he can figure out how to use it. And with that being said, I think everything really mentioned is exactly true. And Silva's, like you said, a beast, but in the end, he's also shown his ability to get beat. And I'm not too concerned about his knockout ability necessarily on Meerschaert. So if he does win this fight, it's going to have to go the distance, in my opinion. So we'll see, but I'm going Gerald Meerschaert, the underdog, for sure.
You guys heard it there. Both Nick and I for the underdog, GM3. And now for the next fight of the night, we have a women's flyweight belt. We have Cynthia Calvillo versus Nina Nunes. Right now, Cynthia Calvillo is the betting favorite at -180, while Nina Nunes is the betting underdog at +140. Nick, I'm a little surprised about this one. Cynthia Calvillo, I'm pretty sure, has been out for a bit because she had a kid. And not only that, before she was out, she was on a 3-fight losing streak in the hands of Kaylin Chokagan, Jessica Andrade, and Andrea Lee. While Nina Nunes herself has also been quite of a losing streak, losing to both Tatiana Suarez and Mackenzie Dern. Obviously, all those names I just mentioned are tough matchups for any of the flyweight women, but I'm a little surprised to see that Cynthia Calvillo, with a longer losing streak and being out for a little bit of a time, is coming in as the betting favorite for this one, Nick. That one, kind of makes my head scratch a bit.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you would think, too, that just having the Nunes name attached to it, since she's in the relationship or whatever, you would think that would also sway it a little bit, but she sits as the underdog. I mean, they're both coming off of a couple losses, either way you look at it. And to me, Calvillo's losses are a little bit less severe. She's fighting against some really top-end fighters, and not to downplay Nunes's losses necessarily, but she does have a couple losses like Tatiana Suarez and Justine Kish that I wouldn't necessarily say. I guess Tatiana Suarez is 9-0 in her own right, but she hasn't fought since 2019 anyway. So what? I don't quite know what's going on there. But regardless, I'm just seeing more impressive high-end bouts and overall more experience, it seems like, for Calvillo. And I think that's who I'm leaning for in this fight, Jose.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, Calvillo, she herself, out of her 9 wins, she's pretty diverse. I mean, she's good enough to make it to the final bell. She has 4 decision wins on her record. She's good enough to submit someone. She has 3 submissions. And if need to be, she can put someone's lights out, but she only has 2 knockouts. While Nina herself, 4 out of her 10 wins are knockout. She has 2 submissions and 4 decisions. On paper, this is I think almost a pretty even match, a lot closer than what the money line actually says. they're both have the same reach advantage. So there's really actually no advantage to either fighter there. And they both land similar strikes per minute. Cynthia Calvillo lands 4.27 strikes landed per minute, while Nina Nunes has 4.64. I think it's safe to say that this is definitely going to be on the feet. Both have pretty good takedown defense as well, both in the 70s. Cynthia Calvillo 73%, while Nina Nunes 76. I think it's safe to say, yeah, this is going to be on the feet, and it's just going to be which one of them is going to show up that night. That's how I see it. This, I think, money line wise, should be closer than what it shows, and maybe as the days go on, it will be. But for now, yeah, for this one, I'm gonna go with the betting favorite, Cynthia Calvillo. Again, it's a tough one because she's been out for a bit and was on a losing streak herself, so that's why it kind of surprised me that she's the favorite in this one. But again, there's nothing wrong, I guess, with Nina Nunes as well being the underdog. But like you said, though, I do think Cynthia Calvillo has had tougher competition, but there's also an argument that Nina Nunes, she also trains with one of the greatest of all time, her own wife, Amanda Nunes. But for this one, this is a flyweight bout. And that being said, I'm going to have to go with the stronger fighter myself that I think, which is Cynthia Calvillo. So you can put me down for the betting favorite, Cynthia Calvillo, as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a great pick in the end. So looks like we'll both be agreeing on the favorite here. Coming in next, we've got a light heavyweight bout between Azamat Murzakanov and Devin Clark. Jose, I'm excited as heck for this one. I'll tell you, light heavyweight bouts are so interesting to me. At 205, Azamat at minus 184, which is totally understandable since he's currently undefeated in pro fighting, and Devin Clark at a plus 142 underdog spot, which I think is fair. I think this spread should be really close, even though Murzakanov is 11-0 and he's 2-0 so far in the UFC as well. I think Devin Clark is a really good matchup. I think this is a great job of matchup for the UFC here. This is going to be a brutal fight. I think it's potentially going to be the fight of the night. Devin Clark is going to bring it. He's a big dude for 205 at 75-inch reach, which is 4 inches more than what Murzakonov's listed at. And I think that alone is going to really help him be able to keep distance from getting knocked out, because Azamat's obviously well known for his 2-0 record in the UFC, both wins by knockout. So Devin Clark's going to know that he needs to keep his distance and use that reach advantage to stay and use his jabs and whatever else he can do to keep Azamat at bay. So Jose, I'm curious to see what you have to think, but man, this might be another good underdog spot. I'm not sure.
No, I definitely get what you're saying, Nick. This is definitely a great matchup. Definitely the biggest test on paper for Azamat. But that being said, Devin Clark, I think it's a big test for Azamat because most of Devin Clark's MMA career in general has been mostly in the UFC, and that says a lot to me. And he's had a lot of win-loss going on. Hasn't really picked up much of a streak. While Azamat obviously is riding 11 fight win streak. He looked impressive coming off Dana White's Contender Series with a first round KO, and he surprised everyone at UFC Fight Night 203 with a flying third round KO knee. Just like this guy, he is for his style, he is actually explosive and does throw wild things. Like he doesn't look like it, but that flying knee, he set it up perfectly against Tough on last fight, and he can set up. I think Brown Bear, Devin Clark. I think he can set him up for a flashy knockout. That's dangerous because at this weight class, the way Azamat looks too, you don't think he would be that type of guy. But he is a very athletic guy, and he can get up high, and he can definitely put lights out for Devin Clark. And that being said, though, what is Devin Clark going to bring to the table as well? Well, he doesn't really have much submission game. His takedown is all right. His takedown defense, I should say, is all right, and he doesn't have much of a takedown accuracy. He has 35%. Nor does Azamat, but again, he hasn't been in the UFC as long. So these statistics, when you look at him for Big Brown Bear, I think that says a lot because he definitely has a lot more fights in the UFC than Azamat. And for that, I'm gonna have to ride with Azamat. Devin Clark, he's not a bad guy, but I definitely see Azamat moving up in the UFC division and being a top 10 guy one day and really being a big staple name within the light heavyweight division. For this one, I understand why he's the favorite, and I'm gonna have to go with that. He's been showing results. This guy, out of his 11 wins, 8 of them come via KO/TKO. He has 1 submission, so I'm not really expecting him to really go out for that. And 2 decision wins if need be. So he's a finisher. I like finishers, and Devin Clark's been finished. So for this one, I'm going to go with Azamat.
Fair enough, Jose. This is definitely going to be one of those fights that I think the spread needs to be close for, because it's just going to be a brawl, and it really could go either way, in my opinion. I would say Devin Clark may be in an advantageous spot to utilize his takedown average of almost 2.5 takedowns per 3 rounds. Azamat hasn't quite matched up with a guy who has takedown ability, so who knows? Maybe Murszakanov's takedown offense is really good and he won't get taken down. But I have a feeling that if Devin Clark really needs to get on him, he can, and he's got submission wins under his belt, just not really any in the UFC. So that being said, it's going to be a tough fight, but I'm going to go with the underdog here. And I think he's just going to be able to, what's the right word? I think he's going to be able to stick it out is what I'm trying to say. And it's going to be bloody, but Devin Clark in the end by decision, if I really had to guess.
You guys heard it there. Nick for Devin Clark, and I myself, Jose, for Azamat. And for your next fight of the night, the co-main event, we have a featherweight bout between David Onama versus Nate Landwehr. Right now, David Onama is the betting favorite at minus 295, while Nate Landwehr is the betting underdog at plus 220. Nate Landwehr, right now, he is coming off he's coming off a win against Lovett Klein at UFC Fight Night 195. He has a 3rd round submission anaconda choke, while David Onama is coming off a 2-fight winning streak, first round KO over Gabriel Benitez at UFC Fight Night 201, and a second round arm triangle against Garnett Armfield at UFC and ESPN 39. This one's going to be a fun one. I think David Onama is going to make a big splash. He can be a big thing in the featherweight division. I think pretty soon, but that's just determined on how he does this Saturday against Nate Landwehr. I mean, Nate Landwehr is also he's just got wins and losses on his UFC record. So I'm sure it'd be nice for him to actually pick up another win in a row for the first time in his UFC career, not knocking on him. But they're both top competitors, but I do think in this one, David Onama may come with a little strong edge, at least a little more confidence, just because he has a few more wins on his record. What are your thoughts on this, Nick?
I think this is definitely going to be another brawl. It's fascinating to see the spread being such a big difference. At plus 220, I gotta say that's, I don't know, minus 295. David Onama. I see why, and my pick is definitely going to be David Onama for this fight. But honestly, Jose, I'm not sure I could take him minus 295. I think this is going to be way closer than those odds dictate. Landwehr is definitely a really good fighter. He puts out a lot of strikes, and he takes some strikes too, but so does Onama. They're both taking over 5.5 strikes per minute, and they're both dealing over 5.5 strikes per minute. So this is just going to be one of those spots where who's going to be a little bit more technical. It's interesting too that they're both coming off submission wins in the UFC with those striking stats in mind. So this could really go anywhere if you ask me, Jose. And the one reason that also leans me towards Landwehr is the potential experience difference. He's had 19 pro fights to Onama's 11, and he's a few years older. So I just wonder if that extra experience might end up playing a factor as well and give Onama some trouble. Not saying Onama won't end up winning the fight, but those factors just all lead towards me not liking that minus 295 spot. But I'm definitely leaning Onama for the pick.
Yeah, I totally get you. Nate Landwehr too. I mean, he has a win over Darren Elkins, and Darren Elkins is a tough guy. And as we know, he can come back from no matter how bad you make him look, he can come back and put your lights out. So the fact that he was able to keep Darren Elkins at bay and get a unanimous decision win against him, UFC on ESPN 8 over him versus Harris, I think is pretty impressive. It does show that Nate Landwehr is got the fight in him and enough to drag it out to all 3 rounds if need be. Again, Darren Elkins is a beast, and you don't want that guy getting carried away. You don't want him to get going. And that being said, though, David Onama, he himself, he has 100% finish rate. I mean, this guy has 6 out of his 10 wins, 6 come via KO/TKO, while 4 come via submission. So he has yet to have a professional fight go to the judges' hands. So for me, to me that's very impressive, and that carries a lot of weight. Like I said earlier on the show, I'm all about finishers, and David Onama knows that he's a finisher. And you know who was a top finisher when they came into the UFC at featherweight? Conor McGregor. I'm not saying that David Onama is going to be the next Conor McGregor, but he's coming in with similar finishing power that is impressive, and that's why I'm saying that if he can get a win and especially finish Nate Landwehr this Saturday, he is going to be moving up in the rankings quickly, and he's going to be a household name in the future. I mean, both, and it's going to be a striking match, like you said. It's going to be a brawl. Nate Landwehr lands 6.51 significant strikes landed per minute, while David Onama throws 5.61. So, this is going to be I think a big stand-up game. Both have strong takedown defense, especially Nate Landwehr, 87% takedown defense. But David Onama can hold his own too with 50%. So that being said, I think it's going to be a stand-up fight. And on the feet, I'm going to have to lean towards David Onama. Even though Nate Landwehr does have more KO/TKOs on his record with 8, but like you mentioned, he has more experience. So that's, to me, makes sense. While David Onama with less experience, he's only two KO/TKOs away from matching Nate Landwehr. And again, he's a finisher. So I'm going to have to go with David Onama with this one. And I'm going to go with a KO or TKO within the 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, no, I love that, man, honestly, because I was about to say myself, like, these guys do not rarely go, or excuse me, they do not commonly go all the 3 rounds. So I think it's a great bet to go within the distance, and whether it's a submission or a knockout, I think it probably should be a knockout in this case. So yeah, I'm loving that pick, Jose.
You guys heard it there, both Nick and I, for David Onama.
Time for the main event of this UFC card. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this one. When this got announced, Jose, I couldn't wait to see my guy Cheeto get back in the ring. Marlon Vera in a bantamweight matchup against Dominick Cruz, the former multi-time champion belt defender. Boy, Jose, this is a matchup with history on the line. This is something that all UFC fans can enjoy, as Dominick Cruz has been around for years at this point, and Marlon Vera more recently has beaten guys like Sean O'Malley, who has been riding the popular wave of the more recent, newer fighters to the UFC. So this is just such an interesting dynamic on the fight, and I mean, I haven't even gotten to the odds yet at this point. Most people would be surprised to hear how big of a favorite Cheeto Vera is at minus 235. Dominick Cruz sitting at plus 180. Man, that's a big, heavy favorite, if you ask me, for Cheeto Vera, but he's kind of earned it. He really stuck it out against Rob Font and ended up getting a decision win in a fight where Rob Font landed like 270 strikes or something. But in the end, Vera was able to get a good amount of kicks in, got 3 knockdowns, and Rob Font looked destroyed at the end of that fight. I think similar things are going to happen here to Dominick Cruz. I'm really not sure if there's going to be a quick early KO. I mean, it is a 5-round fight, so I'm not saying it won't end early, but at least in terms of round 1 and 2, I'm not sure we're going to see a KO right out the gates. I think we're going to see two guys that are kind of respecting each other and getting some reads on each other. But in the end, there is that aspect of Dominick Cruz's ability to get a takedown with his 2.8 takedowns per 3 rounds, much less per 5-round fight. I'm fascinated to see if that plays a factor, Jose. What do you think?
Yeah, Nick. I mean, first of all, I want to say I do agree with you. I think that people have not put enough respect behind the former champ's name. Him being the underdog by this much, I was surprised. Yes, Marlon Vera. Yes, he's been looking great as of lately, and he's putting up a phenomenal win streak. But you must not forget, Dominick Cruz has it hasn't been long since he fell from the title from being the champ. I mean, 2016 he lost to Cody Garbrandt. That's when he actually lost the title. But that was also like one of the very last times Cody Garbrandt looked that good. But before that is, if you can recall, Dominick Cruz has always preached this. He does not believe in ring rust, and to prove it, when he beat Demetrius Johnson back in 2011, he was on a 3-year hiatus. He was gone from the UFC. His surgeries, and he was just out from all the injuries and the surgeries that he was getting. He came back in 2014, first round KO over Takaya Mizugaki, and after that, he was gone again, injured again, out for 2 years. Comes back, beats the dominant champ TJ Dillashaw, and beats Gerard Faber with one of the rematches, of Team Alpha Male versus Dominick Cruz. And then after that is when he lost to Cody Garbrandt and Henry Cejudo, which again, during that time, Cody Garbrandt was looking phenomenal, was great. He was one of the best in the world during that time. And Henry Cejudo, he's triple C, man. Come on. And after that, Dominick Cruz did say that he wanted to kind of take a chill and kind of relax and not fight top 5 guys. He purposely did not want to take on the top guys for the moment. He just wanted to kind of get some wins. And I don't know what else he had going on. I know because he's been busy with commentating as well, but he did want to take on some of the more up and coming younger guys, which I respect because that's a risk, especially when you're that big of a name like Dominick Cruz. A loss to those guys can definitely bump you down the rankings a lot. And that's kind of why I think he's number 8, even with those 2 wins. They really didn't do much for him. I don't even know if they really moved him up in the rankings. That being said, though, he does have a split decision win over Casey Kenny. And Casey Kenny, I had to really go see who he was when he first fought him. And, that was kind of scary seeing that he went to split decision against him. And Casey Kenny actually ended up losing another fight via split decision like a couple months later. And he hasn't really fought since. And then that win over Pedro Munoz, I mean, unanimous decision win. It shows that Dominick Cruz is still good enough to get it done. And he has some of the best footwork in the game. No one can replicate. It's really tough. And I think this is a fair, fun matchup the way I see it. But I for this one, Dominick Cruz, I think I agree with him. He's proven it time and time again. Ring rust doesn't exist. And him taking this fight, I think, is accurate. He also was saying that he wanted to fight Sean O'Malley at some point. So him taking this fight now Sean O'Malley's obviously going to fight Peter Yan, but him taking this fight kind of tells me like, all right, like he doesn't want to be fighting guys as low as like Pedro Munoz and Casey Kenny, but he definitely doesn't want to fight like the top 3 guys. So right now he's in the middle, and this is a good, accurate matchup that I think he feels really comfortable in, is why I think he took it. So, but again, Marlon Vera, phenomenal striking. The dude is diverse. I mean, he himself put out he finished Sean O'Malley. So, but not only that, Marlon Vera, his 3-fight win streak. Again, yeah, I can see why people are going for him, but he's being Rob Font is a big name. But the Frank Yeager, I mean, it's Frank Yeager, big name, but not today. You know what I'm saying, Nick?
Yeah, for sure, Jose. I think those are all good points, and I think that leads to say that's why it's going to be such a close fight. And I don't think the odds should be so disparagingly different. I think it should be more, Vera maybe minus 160 and Cruz, plus 120 or something like that. So it's a tough fight to pick, especially from the betting perspective. But I don't know, Jose. Personally, I think I mentioned it earlier. I'm favoring the favorite here. Marlon Vera's also got such a great game and ability to kick. I love watching his front kicks just destroy people. And I think Dominick Cruz could fall susceptible to that. A 2-inch reach disadvantage for Cruz may prove to be a little bit of a factor as well. Either way, it's going to be a tough fight for these guys, and neither of them can really afford to see a loss right now in terms of trying to get back into championship contention. So, that being said, Jose, I'm going to go with the favorite in the main event, Chito.
Ooh, I love it. You know what? I'm gonna have to go with the hometown hero in this one because I'm pretty sure this UFC Fight Night is gonna take place in San Diego. That's Dominick Cruz's hometown. I'm riding with the underdog on this one. I've seen Marlon Vera go against high-level strikers like Jose Aldo, and we saw that win. He lost unanimous decision. I think I'm gonna take the hometown hero Dominick Cruz winning this via unanimous decision. So you can put me down for the underdog on this one, Nick.
All right, I love it.
You guys heard it. Nick with Chito Vera, and I myself, Jose, with Dominick Cruz.
All right, everyone, and welcome to the best part of the show, the betting portion of UFC Fight Night Vera versus Cruz, your Moneyline MMA edition. Before we get into the thick of things, please remember to subscribe to our channel on YouTube and leave a comment below letting us know who you guys are betting on and which side you guys take in the fights that Jose and I disagree on. That being said, we also have a Twitter account in which weekly picks get posted before the main event starts. So go ahead and give us a follow over there as well, because those picks continue to hit. And we're going to continue putting those picks out there on a weekly basis. That being said, let's get into our best bets of the week. Jose and I had a couple of underdogs this week, and we're excited about it. First, our best in our lock underdog of the week here, Gerald Meerschaert, GM3. He's coming in, and as we stated, he's going to absolutely bring it to Bruno Silva. Nothing against Bruno Silva, but Meerschaert is a beast, and I think he's going to have a striking game relatively improved from his last bout against Krzysztof Jotko. That being said, take Gerald Meerschaert as the top underdog on this card, but he is not the only underdog that we looked at. We also are big on Devin Clark. He is a guy that's facing an undefeated light heavyweight, Azamat Murzakanov, but it's going to be a brutal fight. Devin Clark has more experience, so look for him to really bring it and potentially even get the win against Murzakanov as the underdog. Those are two great bets to make. And then Jose and I pretty much disagreed on most of the others. We did not disagree on David Onama. That's one of the bigger favorites on this card, and that's the co-main event against Nate Landwehr. So that's going to be an interesting fight, but we're sticking with the favorite in that one. But in terms of the main event, Jose and I did disagree. I had Chito Vera, and Jose's going with Dominick Cruz. So that's going to be interesting. You guys can pick and let us know which, like I said earlier, in the comments who you guys are favoring in that one. And we can't forget about the fight that's opening this card. In fact, the two women's fights that will be opening the card here, Yazmin Jauregui against Iasmin Lucindo. That's going to be an underdog banger fight, I think. Those girls are really going to throw it. And Cynthia Calvillo is another fighter against Nina Nunes that Jose and I agreed on. So that kind of leads me in here to our parlays of the week. We're going to take the three favorites that Jose and they're the only favorites that Jose and I agreed on for this card, which is Calvillo plus David Onama plus Yazmin Jauregui. Those three legs get you plus 193 on FanDuel. Now from here, we're going to add in the underdog of the week that Jose and I agreed on, GM3. We're very confident in this. So if you're looking to add a little spice to your betting mix for this Saturday, put GM3 in there for a plus 838 bet. And if you really want to just put a couple dollars down to get some insane returns, at that point, you can decide whether you want to take Jose or I's pick on the main event, or you can take the underdog in the Azamat Murzakanov versus Devin Clark fight. Personally, I have more confidence in Chito Vera to beat Dominick Cruz. So my 5-leg parlay is going to add Marlon Vera in there to make Onama plus Calvillo plus Jauregui plus Meerschaert plus Vera for plus 1237. If you ended up agreeing with Jose, replace Vera for Dominick Cruz. And since Dominick Cruz is the underdog, you get up to 2,527 odds on your bet. So that's tough to turn down, in all honesty, but only make the bets that you think are going to hit. And personally, I would not make this bet because I think Chito Vera is going to win that fight. So I'm going to stick with his 1237 plus on that 5-leg parlay. So that pretty much wraps it up. If you guys are looking for anything more specific in terms of win methods, you can pretty much feel comfortable in saying Gerald Meerschaert by submission or by decision. There will very unlikely to see a knockout in that fight. And I would definitely lean towards submission since Silva hasn't really seen any top end submission artists, in my opinion. Not that he hasn't seen any good submission artists, but just Gerald Meerschaert is just another specimen when it comes to that. So that's what I would lean on in terms of winning methods for that fight. And otherwise, I don't know. I think Chito Vera and Dominick Cruz, I think that goes within the distance. I think that fight ends without the need of judges. I'm going to go Chito Vera by KO. I think his forward front kicks are just going to daze Dominick Cruz. It's, all respect to Dominick Cruz. He's a legend of the game and a legend of the bantamweight division. But at this point, I think Marlon Vera is going to take the win there, by KO specifically. So that's going to wrap it up for this week's betting portion. Keep an eye out for our tweet on Saturday as well, in case anything changes up a little bit between now and then. But you can rest easy that those are going to be some good bets to make. And as always, we will see you guys again next week. Have a good one.